Hey, real quick, this is Eric, your host. I recorded a number of shows in December, and then I took some time off because you're wondering, well, where's Garden Fork been? Well, we're back, and I want to present one of them with Jimmy Goots, my executive producer, today. There'll be another one with my surfer buddy friend Mike coming up soon, and this is the Martin Luther King Day weekend. Go take a look at YouTube. I have a new video up about dropping a tree that was leaning toward the house. And I'm really proud of it. I think it's a good story. So go check that out. All right, here's the show. Hey, welcome to Garden Fork Radio. Thanks for taking a minute to download the show. This is me, Eric. I'm the host. I have this really fun podcast and a YouTube channel. It's what I call Eclectic DIY. It's me and my friends talking about interesting stuff, and hope you find it interesting as well. Today we were supposed to have on Mike Annis from the Space Rocket History podcast. And I'm a big fan. My executive producer Jimmy Goots got me involved with that. And I'm sure you can tell Jimmy Goots is on the line right now because he sounds like you're eating a Snickers bar or something in the background.
So you can't hear the snow here in North Carolina dripping off the building like I can, but I sneak a roasted jalapeno kind bar out of my center pocket of my hoodie, and as delicately as I could, I tell you what, Skype has really turned up the progress.
Yeah, the microphones that we have on our phones, and plus just the Skype call is pretty amazing. So it's a good product.
Yeah,
Do you want me to talk while you eat?
Oh, no. I was trying to avoid any further complications involving the kind bar. So probably should have done that in pre-production. Let's
give the audience a little bit of a background. Space Rocket History Podcast is something that I was turned on to by Jimmy, our executive producer of the Garden Fork Radio Show here. And I've been listening to it on the car ride, a Friday night car ride. And I'm all caught up. We're at Apollo 13. And Jimmy and I have been emailing the host of the show, Michael Annis, probably for 6 months, trying to get time with him to do a podcast interview. And Mike, in the summer months, I think probably a large part of the year, travels around in an RV with his wife because they are retired. And getting a good internet connection is difficult. So he is back at home, and we had set up today at 1 o'clock to do it. And then I got an email from him that he had a really bad cold and that we were going to have to delay the podcast. So Jimmy and I decided to get on the Skype anyway because we have a couple things to talk about. So here we are.
Yeah, I don't even remember how I came across Space Rocket History. Don't know how I first started listening to it. But I listened to it for years, and he was talking about the Gemini missions and the Mercury missions. And I kept waiting, when is this guy going to get to Apollo 11? We land on the moon. And it was a couple years, and when it finally came on, I was telling you again, hey, look, he's finally on Apollo 11. This is the time to get on here. And I think that's really about how long we've been trying to get the guy on. He's sought after talent.
He has been a guest on another podcast. I was looking at his website today. He's got a really cool hat. I might have to buy the hat.
And also, he lives here in North Carolina just as I do.
Oh, all right. I thought he did, but I didn't want to give anything away. He was on the Aviation Extended podcast, which I have not heard of before. And then he's at an interview on a show called The Space Show as well. So he can be nailed down. We can get him on the horn. So I say a lot, don't I?
I'll start some check marks.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Before I forget, in the pre-show we were talking about you living there in Brooklyn. When you said Brooklyn, it popped into my head. I don't know if the mayor of New York, like Ed Koch, was Ed Koch the mayor of Queens? Was he the mayor of Long Island and Brooklyn and Harlem and the Village area? I don't understand how that all works. Can you clear that up for me? It'd be better than Googling it, I'm sure.
Well, long, long ago, the Dutch sailed across the ocean, and no, the mayor is the mayor of all 5 boroughs, and each borough has a borough president. The borough president has been kind of stripped of most power. They used to be very powerful with like political appointments. You know, if you were friends with the borough president, you could get a job at the city, kind of thing. And that doesn't occur anymore. But the mayor is the mayor of Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island, and Manhattan. When people think of New York City, they usually think of Manhattan, you know, Times Square, which I think you should avoid. It's just a giant shopping mall. And Long Island, Brooklyn and Queens are on the same island as the counties of Long Island, which are Suffolk and Norfolk, I think. Suffolk and Norfolk. Anyway, those other counties. There's an imaginary boundary line between Long Island, as we call it, and Brooklyn and Queens. So I live on Long Island. And it's an island in the Atlantic, and I'm separated from the mainland by the island of Manhattan. So when the world goes to heck, I have to cross across 2 islands to get to the mainland.
Yeah, if there's any bridges left, the tunnel probably the worst choice.
Well, when 9/11 happened, they shut down all the bridges and tunnels. So it got me thinking that I should have the inflatable boat or the folding boat, you know?
The plywood boat.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. I want to see you cross the river to Manhattan in the plywood boat and that stream of, you know, barges and cigarette boats.
So
I've never been to New York. Never. My wife has been 3 times with friends and bridal party, and the last time she went, she saw somebody get murdered across the street from the Gap. It was a diamond dealer got killed by a Russian guy, and she hasn't wanted to go back, so it looks like, you know, that's off the table.
That rarely happens these days. When I first out of college, I moved back to New York City, and the crime rate was pretty awful. I think it was 3 or 4 murders a day, and now it's 1/3 that, if that. It might be below 100 a year, and you know, there's a million bajillion people live here. So
right, yeah, that's a drop in the bucket to what I thought it was.
Crime is like nothing here. I mean, the Diamond District, there's people with diamonds in their pockets and they're walking around, and that sounds like that might have been a personal beef.
Yeah, and this was 10 years ago.
Yeah, it improves all the time. It improves all the time. So we have very high security. There's always police running around with keep an eye out for bad guys. So I love it here. I love the yin and yang of the country and the city. So
yeah, you do. You get a little bit of both.
Yeah, like this weekend, I'm probably gonna drop a tree or chop up. I have to split the wood of the other one that I had to take down because it was gonna hit my garage. And then you get in the car and you drive, and all of a sudden you're in this. It's kind of crazy. If you just get out of the car and you're like, "Where am I?" I mean, the part of Brooklyn I live in it's an immigrant neighborhood that's teeming with people all over the place. But you can also get an amazing empanada right out of the food cart in my corner. You know.
Really? How would that? I don't think that'd be good if I could get a nice empanada and just, you know, I could take my skateboard down there in 30 seconds.
Well, around here, it's a beautiful thing. So,
so you're cutting down a tree. 2 things. You got any snow up there?
No, you do.
All right, we do. We could talk about the snow if you want, but now you got me thinking about you dropping a tree. Is it going to be a tree that is good to inoculate with some mushrooms, maybe?
It's a cherry.
Oh,
and
no, that's firewood or furniture.
Yeah, it's a pretty craggy cherry, so it isn't really, as far as milling it for furniture wood, it's not going to be good. It's been dead for a while, and it needs to come down, and it would help to have some more firewood. So I got the Troy Boat splitter, which I was running the other day. It was really quite nice. And I like the challenge of dropping a tree where you want it to drop, and the physics and mechanics involved with that. You know, I've spent 3 months looking at the tree. I just walk over to it and I look at it and I look where the natural lean is. I'm looking at the area because there's it's the woods, there's trees all over the place. Is it going to hang up in this other tree? So it's not just walk up and boom, cut it down. And
no, not unless you have to, but it being just a project and taking a few months to figure it out and get your ducks in a row, that's cool. Especially if you don't have like an awning that you have to avoid.
Yeah.
Which I'm dealing with from the snow we had. Before the snow, the hurricane took down one of my neighbor's trees that's just here beside my storage building at the end of the driveway, which has an awning over the front that sticks out maybe 3.5 feet. It came down and just grazed it, only to leave a few leaves in its gutter and crush across my entire truck. Now that all that's gone, I got screwed on the whole thing. Nobody's insurance says that they owe anybody anything. But now the tree's left there. What is the worst tree in the world?
An ailanthus tree in my mind.
Bradford pear.
Oh, yes.
Only because you forgot about that one.
So let's talk about Bradford pears. They're developers, shopping mall people love them. That build these things because the Bradford pear will grow very fast and flower, but it has a weakness in it, in that all the limbs usually come out from the trunk at the same point, and they get weak and they snap.
They do. It's just like it's almost like a body that's got like 12 or 13 elbows or knees sticking out of the top, and they're all just leaning away from the center, and you get a little bit of wind and a piece will just fall off. And if you don't keep them trimmed up, some people up the road had enough of theirs and they just trimmed them down like a crepe myrtle and just take everything down. They're probably 15 20 feet high, but they're just down to nothing. It's like they just shave down to the big trunks, and they'll come back. They'll look weird for a while, but other than just cutting them down, when they get mature, they pose a lot of problems. So now that this tree has fallen apart, that big section came out that fell towards me. Now it's got this big open area in the center, and part of it leans over my building. It's got all my stuff, and it's got an awning on one side and a big lean-to on the other. Now that thing's going to have to be taken down. So I come home and look at it and think, do I tie a rope to that part and hook it to the truck and go down the driveway and have tension on it? Or is it going to snap? When it snaps, is it going to break my chin? Do I have my leather chaps on and my? Yeah. I still need to get a set of those chaps because my cousin, he's 19. He started up a business cutting down trees and hauling stuff off. And he come over here one day, didn't want to tell his mom and dad he had run the chainsaw through his jeans and like cut his knee up. Just as good as you can hope for with a chainsaw. Yeah. That's what he got away with. And he had on some Carhartt pants, but that's what we got him for Christmas is some chaps to wear.
They're like $50 to $100, and they saved my thigh because I was kind of kneeling down to cut some limbs, and for some reason I got the saw. I had finished a cut and I was pushing the saw to the side, and I was kind of on one knee and my leg was up, and it caught the inside of my thigh, and all of a sudden there was this kind of white puffy material. It looked like a milkweed pod had exploded, Ah,
okay, yeah.
And the saw stalled, and I'm like, what's going on here? And I look down at my leg, and there's all this white puffy material coming out of the chainsaw chaps, and I realized, oh gosh, I could have just cut there's a vein that goes on the inside of your thigh there.
Oh yeah. Like that's what I was thinking. You made me think as soon as you said that about the last season of the HBO show Deadwood. Guy, he runs a knife up under the guy's thigh like that, and he falls down, and they sit there and watch him die, and I'm like, yeah, that would be a really bad place to get a cut. When you said the inside of your thigh, that's a different story. Yeah, that's a big artery there. That's the artery they use to do the stents in your heart. They run it up through that artery in the inside of your leg there. But anyway, because I had my chainsaw chaps on, I didn't have to go to the emergency room, So does that material gum the saw up and stop it?
Yeah. The problem,
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it won't stop an electric chainsaw, though. I don't. I think that because the torque is always on.
It's constant. Yeah, it's like trying to put out a Tesla after it catches on fire.
Yeah. I went by the Tesla dealership here in Brooklyn yesterday, and I was like, I want one of those.
Yeah, there's one of my customers that I do the maintenance on his pool. He only lives a mile away. He has 2 Ferraris, and he had a Porsche, one of their SUVs that was a twin turbo. He got rid of that because he drives from here to Charlotte a lot, and he got tired of paying for the gas. I'm like, I can't believe people talk about gas that have, a Porsche and 2 Ferraris.
Right.
And so he got rid of the Porsche, and he got one of the Model X, I think. That's that SUV that looks like the Pontiac Aztek.
Yeah.
And he said it's faster than the twin turbo Porsche.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Elon Musk, I mean, people bash on him, but he makes stuff happen.
Yeah, we need to cherish and nourish our geniuses.
Yeah. They're coming out with a Tesla S, which is the more affordable one, but there's a backlog of them, and if you buy the basic model, you have to wait a long time to get it. They want the people that want to spend money on the luxury items because they make more profit on that. But so you were talking about some magic glue while you were making all that noise?
My must-have tools. I'd written down on a Post-it note somewhere about, show topics to talk about, and there's a few things that I use every week at least, constantly throughout the year, and I figured we'd share them with the audience. And if anybody has an 18-volt drill, or 20-volt drill,
the cordless drills.
Cordless drill. If you have one of those, a lot of times you have different tools. Like I have a circular saw, a reciprocating saw, a pole pruner, a flashlight, a radio. All these different things use the same battery that you can pull in and out. And another tool I use a lot is a grinder. A plug-in grinder that's got the spinning disc, and you can change it out from sandpaper to material to grind down metal, plastic, and wood.
Is it called a right angle grinder?
I guess some people, an angle grinder, right angle grinder.
Yeah. And
they're super dangerous and fast, but it's kind of a pain because I always wrap the cord around the whole thing, and it's shaped like a snake. And I pull that thing out, and you can't, you need an extension cord to get it to something. Well, I finally just went and bought an 18-volt one.
Uh-huh.
And it's the same battery as the Ryobi. It was like $40 or $50, and you can run out if you need to cut the head off of a nail and you want to grind it down so you don't go by and scratch your coat.
Yeah.
You just take that thing out and boom, or you can cut some tile with it. It's just one of the things I didn't realize that I had to have until I had it, and now the other one I only bring it out every few months.
It's a big time saver, yeah. I had a Harbor Freight right angle grinder, and I finally really broke it. Broke it. I broke the on switch, so I'd have to spin the disc to get it to start.
Yeah.
I finally bought a quality brand, the yellow brand right angle grinder, but now you got me thinking about a cordless one. I have the Bosch cordless drill and impact driver. I'll link in the show notes to it. It's 12 volt. It's smaller, but I think it has the power of an 18 volt, of an average price 18 volt. They're lighter.
Especially if you got better batteries now that they can make a 12 volt.
Yeah.
More powerful.
I can climb a ladder, and I can just shove this thing in my pocket, and it doesn't fall out. I don't have to clip it onto my belt. That's what I really like about it.
I actually found somewhere at an estate sale, it was like a leather holster that went on your side, and it was meant to hold some type of a tool. And I bought it thinking, you know what? I bet my drill would fit in that perfectly. And it did. Sweet. And my dad was here visiting, and he saw it. He said, I want that. so it's gone. I can't say no to him. If you come through my building right here, you can't bat your eye and then you see a tool that is his that has the orange spray paint on it.
Right.
He's like, "Oh, there's my hammer." I said, "You want it back?" No, it's yours. So I had to let him have the little holster. So one of the other things that I use all the time is called Goop or Shoe Goo. It's a little like metal toothpaste tube. It's really fat and it's like a silicone type adhesive.
I've used it.
You have used it?
Yeah.
I use it for shoes. I use it to glue pieces of wood or metal or plastic together to fix holes in swimming pool liners. Somebody's like, I'm not going to put a new liner in. What do you want to do? I said, I can try this. And they're like, oh, okay. Somebody has like a piece of stone work that's around the top of their hot tub.
Yeah.
One of them's loose. I said, go get a thing of this and squirt it all on the bottom. He's like, oh, great. Boom, done. I've even glued back in sections of busted out grout that came out whole. Yeah. Just from the freezing and expansion. I said, I glued one in here. Look at this. And they're like, oh, that's great. And how much are you going to charge? And they're like, oh, wow. The other guy wanted, $3,500 to remove them all and grind them. I said, well, you can do that. They're still going to pop out. Why would I do that? And I said, Goop.
You should wrap like duct tape around the tube and say special X adhesive or something.
Yeah, I can't let all these secrets out.
No, you're letting them behind the curtain here.
That's true. And that reminds me, the first time I ever encountered it was my parents owned a hardware store when I was growing up in West Virginia. And it was one of the products. They had automotive Goop, and I was the automotive department supervisor. And they had plumbing Goop and they had Shoe Goo. I think they're all the same. Absolutely. Probably. The exact same. I think the key thing with that kind of glue is to clamp it or provide some compression while it's setting. And that's, I'm going to say that that's not as true of this product as it is of something like Gorilla Glue. Okay. Because it does expand and bubble and it comes out of where you want it. And this stuff really doesn't. You can get it down really thin, and when it dries, it holds, and it's still pliable. Like you could bind the back of some paper with it and, make your own book. Well, that's a nice segue, isn't it? Oh, well, I guess it is sort of accidental. Yeah. I am working on a book project right now, 750 books for an ad agency out in California. And when you think about cutting out a book with a machine and the dust and the piles of books and the cardboard boxes, it gets a little overwhelming. This is only the second giant order I've tried to go through. So I'm learning a lot about production and how to save time. So some background, everyone. Jimmy, in addition to his full-time job of executive producer of Garden Fork Radio, also has a company called Hollow Books. Is it Custom Hollow Books? It's Custom Hollow Book Company. We're at hollowbooks.com and freehollowbooks.com. So hollowbooks.com, and so he will custom make a hollowed out book for you in any book you want or a book that he has to fit anything like your, you can hide your laptop, you could hide your phone, you could hide money, keys, Jimmy sent me one of these and it's in the shelf, and I won't tell you what's in there, but it just looks like a book. And so if someone were to break into your house, they're going to go look for the chainsaws or, your money or something, and they don't really think to look in the bookshelf, Yeah, because the people who are coming into your house to steal stuff probably aren't as intellectually savvy as the person who has the book with a hole in it. As savvy as the Garden Fork listener. So. But anyway, so what have you learned as far as you're a one-man band and all of a sudden you've got 700 books to cut rectangles in? You want to set up your work area like a drum kit to where you twist, grab a new book, you glue it, you put the material in it to press it overnight, and then you lean down and you need something to put on top of the book to hold it. So you don't want to lean down all the way to the floor to pick this thing up every time. So you elevate that weight that you're using over and over, and you just try to get to where you can just sit down and just go unconscious for hours. And pretty soon you start running out of space because it's 750 or something.
Yeah.
And every single book needs 7 or 8 things done to it. So you start talking about how many times you have to touch something or move something or get up and refill glue. Yeah, it's crazy, but come up with a new little production idea. Maybe I'll be ready to share that on the next show. Something where I might be able to make, if you want 10,000 books, I can start saying yes, because I've had to turn down those jobs.
I wonder if you could take like some kind of hydraulic press and have a big die cutter at the bottom of it and just open up the book, shove all the pages under the die cutter and hit the launch button, go ka-chunk, and just
that's how I did the books back in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
But they were less than a half-inch thick.
Oh, okay.
And you really can't, you go from a half-inch of paper to an inch of paper, and now you ask anybody in the world, it's just about impossible to cut through and not destroy stuff.
Right.
Because it's just exponential. It's like trying to tear your homework in half and then tearing a phone book in half. Maybe I need to get one of those wrestlers that used to be able to do it. See if they've got a production idea.
But I think of the same thing as far as streamlining the work process, because I'm actually printing up Christmas cards. I just put up a video about making your own homemade Christmas cards using a little block printing thing. And now I have to make like 100 cards, of which 50 of them are going to the Garden Fork Radio patrons, people that contribute a couple dollars a month to help the show keep going on. How was that for a segue there? So
hand signed?
Yes. If you would like a Garden Fork Christmas card, you can become a Garden Fork patron. I ask for $3 a month. That's like the cost of a cup of coffee. You can start at $1 a month if you want, or you could give more, and there's a couple people that give a lot more, and that is really great. So patreon.com/gardenfork, or the information is in the episode notes for this show here. Just click on the Garden Fork icon on your podcast player there. But I was thinking about trying to streamline that production, and my problem is each card, you have to print it, and it's wet.
Yeah.
And you have to put it somewhere to dry. And yet they have to dry overnight because it's a water-based ink, and I'm a little heavy with the ink. So I hit a point where I have to stop. And last night, I've learned a couple things here. One, I stop when I get tired, because that's when I start making mistakes.
Yeah.
But of course, Garden Fork can make mistakes all the time. And the other one is sometimes you get a little tired of doing it, and then I realize to myself, well, after I make this one, that's one less I have to do. So I'm always getting closer to my goal by knocking another one out. So that's kind of how I keep myself going.
You need to compartmentalize the stress. I look at it as I'm going to glue another box of books. Not I've got 750 of them. I've got 2 boxes over here that have 25. All right, I'm going to do another box. If you start looking at the giant pile, you forget that it's all just chipping away.
I actually want to make a video, and the title will be "I'm Overwhelmed by My Workshop," because my shop is a mess and I've been avoiding it, and yet I know the solution. And the solution is to go down there and focus on like 2 square feet of the shop and put that stuff away, and then move on to the next 2 square feet. And then I'm going to have a box with the stuff that I don't know what to do with. I'm going to throw it in the box, and then I'm just not going to look at that box.
That might be the box for the next yard sale.
Yeah, what to do with this stuff. So I actually bought some of that restaurant shelving on wheels, that stainless steel reference shelving, to put my tools on. It's still in the box because I'm overwhelmed by the workshop. So if I compartmentalize that, I could push through that. But if you all have some help for me, some tips, that would be great. It's radio@gardenfork.tv to push through that.
Yeah. How can help me get more flat spots?
Yeah.
to put things on.
Well, actually, in my office, I have eliminated horizontal surfaces because I know that I will stack junk on them.
Well, that's all right. You say horizontal surfaces. I was at the book binder this morning, and they have all these different machines that cut books, that sew books, that bind things, that heat stamp, that do die cutting, and they had it looked like a printing press from the 1850s. All these drawers filled with little type and like pictures and dies, and they had this old wooden shelf that slid out, and everything that was, all the shelves were on a slant. So you pull them out and everything's there, so they aren't not going to tumble,
right,
and get mixed up. So as far as your cards, maybe you need like a stand that you could build out of a 2x4 and drill holes in, put dowels, so that you can just stack the cards in that vertically
as they dry.
As they dry, and you could do it on both sides. That way you eliminate the need for that much flat spot area. But I don't think, I watched the video, it didn't seem like any of the cards had so much ink on them that they would drip and run if they were at like a 45. Is that right?
No, it won't run. It's just that it's tacky for probably 12 hours. So you don't want to stack them on top of each other. They have to dry separately.
Yeah, and if you don't cover the living room floor with them, then you have to put the dogs out for 12 hours.
Now then Charlie Pup will start chewing on them because she likes to eat paper. So.
I thought this was bacon-based ink.
Yeah. Well, we've managed to fill up a half hour of our listeners' time talking about nothing, right?
Yeah, sorry we didn't have anything to talk about.
Yeah. Well, maybe you could be on the show more, Jimmy, if you have all these topic ideas.
I need to just find where I've written them all down. I think I've got another show or show and a half almost in the can.
Well, instead of texting me these cryptic messages, you could email me a show list or something,
Oh, okay. I didn't know how you wanted it done.
All right, everyone. So Mike from Space Rocket History will be on. I hope he had a really bad cold, so it is the winter, so that stuff just goes around. But Space Rocket History podcast, and if you're interested in a holo book, just go to holobooks.com. Really, actually, well done website, and Jimmy will make you a holo book.
Yeah, just give me a few weeks, finish this thing up. I'm pretty much having to crush all Christmas orders, but it's going to be fine. My wife keeps telling me.
Yeah, it's just one box at a time. So
that's it. Like Johnny Cash.
Make it a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Garden Fork Radio's executive producer is Jimmy Goots of holobooks.com, and our music is licensed from uniquetracks.com.